And come on. Yeah, we're live. Whoa. And I just unplugged my headphones, so I'm not going to be able to hear you. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is, you know who this is. And I'm here with a very special guest this week, Jan from Virtuix. Say hi, Jan.
Hey, everyone.
Jan's streaming to us live from their headquarters in Austin, Texas. And you've got a giant UFO, it looks like, landed behind you. What is that thing?
Yeah, this is the VR ARENA, our new attraction. This is actually the unit that was on the show floor at IAAPA, and now it's here at our office just for development work. So we've installed the next one already in the field last week as well. We'll talk about that. But yeah, this is the original.
I visited Jan before IAAPA last year. I think it was in October, maybe even. And they had this giant plywood prototype of the arena crammed inside this office. And it was like bursting at the seams. And they built like this real life prototype out of plywood and 2x4s. And I thought that was, I thought that was really impressive because so many companies just, don't actually build the thing and work in it. And you guys had like this really crude, it was really crude, but totally functional, real size scale prototype. I don't know why it impressed me for some reason, but I'll never get rid of that memory.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, making a hardware product, especially something this size, it's a big effort. And we got this designed from scratch and now installed in 1 year, which I think is fast. But it's thanks to, it's not our first product, and we've been in the hardware business for a few years, and we have a great team in the US and also in China, so that helps.
Cool. So before we jump in, so Jan's been sending out some really amazing information based on their experience, which we'll talk about. And I wanted to get Jan in because he's got a lot of data to share. And one of the things I like to talk shit all the time. You can back up with data. That really impresses me. And so we're going to get into some real data that Jan's collected over his, what feels like 100 years in the business by now. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit of housekeeping about some upcoming guests that we have and upcoming webinars. So next week we've got, I'll be coming to you live from Las Vegas the day after Amusement Expo, and whatever's left of me, we'll be doing a wrap up of all of the announcements, the new products. We'll have video. We'll have a lot. So if you can't make Amusement Expo, you definitely want to tune into that one. After that, I've got Philip Steinfat from VR Nerds. Those are the guys that make Tower Tag. And it's one of my favorite VR games. They've been out in the market now for a couple of years. I saw it about over a year ago now at VR LA, and really, really super fun. And Philip's an interesting guy. He was a professional paintball player and a laser tag fanatic when he was a kid. And so we're going to talk about all kinds of interesting stuff. Lynn Rosenthal from Periscape VR. She is operating at JFK Airport, these beautiful VR towers at Terminal 4, the Delta Terminal, and doing really interesting stuff in really unique location. Dima from Neurogaming, he's going to be coming to us from Amsterdam, talking about their new VR parks that they've opened. They've opened some combination Play VR Neurogaming Polygon Esports competition locations, and we're going to hopefully check in with them. Tony Rogers from VAAI. This guy is a freaking amazing individual. He's a former Air Force guy. He's an inspiration, and if nothing else, he's a keynote speaker, he's an inspirational keynote speaker. But he does a lot in VR and AR, and I learn about technology from him. And so if you don't follow him on LinkedIn, follow him, but tune into that one. He's an inspiration. Tommy Goodkin from VR World in New York City. It's one of the oldest and largest VR arcades in the world. It's in Manhattan. They've been crushing it, and he's in charge of content. And then my friend Sven from Exit VR, who hopefully will have released their Huxley 2 game, which is one of the first long-form storytelling escape rooms in VR. and he's going to be coming to us from Berlin. And then finally, Randy White from White Hutchinson, who's another data guy. He's going to be bringing all kinds of consumer information about what are the trends for consumers in out-of-home entertainment. What are they looking for? And if you're in the operations business, you're definitely going to want to be for this. And if you're building solutions or games or anything for the market, you're going to want to tune in and find out what's happening on the consumer market. So anyway, yeah, that's a little bit about what's coming up. And now back to the present. So Jan, before we get started, for those of you that don't know, Jan is one of my actually entrepreneurial heroes, to be honest with you. So he launched the Virtuix Omni via a Kickstarter. 2014, was it?
2013.
In 2013. So this is before the whole new wave of VR really caught wind. And just give us a short version of that history, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've come a long way, and I started working on the Omni already back in 2011, 2012. So way before VR was cool again. You know, people thought I was crazy. You know what, VR? That's from the 90s. You know, they didn't get it. Then we did our Kickstarter campaign in 2013. So this is now almost 6 years ago. So we were one of the first companies in this new wave of VR innovation. Initially, we were focused on the consumer. The plan was to make this a consumer product. The consumer market has been very slow to take off. Our product ended up being more of a commercial product anyway. So 3 years ago, we transitioned to the commercial market, started selling Omnis to entertainment venues, VR arcades, some enterprise applications as well. And that's been a great success. So since that time, we actually now ship more than 3,000 Omnis all over the world, 45 countries, over 500 locations. And we do that through a distributor network of 18 distributors on 5 continents. But it's been a long road. It's been 6 years now in the making, and it feels like we're still just getting started.
So if you were to give advice to somebody thinking about doing a Kickstarter, what would that be?
Oh, I think Kickstarter, does it still exist? Is that still a thing?
It's still a thing. Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, companies, a lot of companies are using that now as a way to test market. Big companies are using it as a way to test market products or platform. No longer just raise money for production. It's really become a marketing and a launch platform for a lot of companies that have the money to do it. What was just really quickly, what was your experience there?
It was a great experience. I think our goal was $150,000, and then we hit $1.1 million. Back then, it was in the top 10 of most successful campaigns at that time. But I think it's a great window. It's a great shop. It's a great forefront to launch a product. Where it goes wrong is what we've did and what many other companies in the hardware space have done is raise money, then use that money to develop the product. And that's where it often goes wrong, because $1 million is not nearly enough to bring any sort of product to market. Just for the
especially in the hardware market, right? Yeah.
We raised today, we raised $20 million to date from investors. We're a venture-funded company, big institutional investors, venture capitalists. We've raised several rounds. But that's hardware. You know, it takes a lot of money, and so where Kickstarter goes wrong is that people raise a few $100,000 to make a hardware product and then just never deliver.
Yeah, they say hardware's hard.
It is.
Yeah. So cool. So, all right. So let's talk about. So you made the transition from a consumer product to a commercial product, and then you went through. So you had and I've been. I got to be really honest, as I try to be. I've had challenges with the treadmill products over the years. And when Jan called me, last year, and he said, "Hey, I want you to come check out this new thing," I'm like, "Dude, man, I just hate this shit." And his passion convinced me, and the fact that his team, I love him and his team, they're really good people, and I have a sore spot for entrepreneurs, and watched what he went through and how he handled himself in the Kickstarter. I'm gonna write his book someday, the Kickstarter story, because I think the way you guys handled yourself is the way you handle yourself through adversity in growing a business. And we won't that. Maybe we'll do that as a separate webinar someday and tell that story, because I find it inspirational. But anyway, so I came down and I did the new one, and you've made a lot of changes. I want to talk a little bit about some of the early history, some of the challenges, what the market, how you got the market feedback, and how you've transitioned that into the product today. Because companies launch products all the time, and what they do is they just move on to the next thing. And what they don't do is take the market feedback, which is critical, and focus on improving the product. And you guys have, I think, have done a really good job of that. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. What we ship today, the Omni 2.0, as we call it, it made so much better than what people may have tried just a few years ago. We've never stopped improving the product, from overshoes. You don't have to take off your shoes anymore, which was a big pain point. The harness around your waist now is a simple waist belt, no more leg straps that hold diaper. The base is a lot smoother. So if anybody tries our product today, as is evidenced by the success we're having at our first VR arena installation, I think it's great. It's a lot better than it used to be. One mistake we made in our Kickstarter campaign is that we were really promoting the notion that the Omni enables you to walk naturally inside VR, and that's a mistake, because it's not true. It's not natural walking. You're walking on a plastic convex or concave dish, so it's not like walking on the street. However, once you get used to it and you're on it, I mean, when I do it, I'm running on it on full speed. To my brain, it feels like I'm walking and running in VR, and it's awesome. But the people that try for the first time and that want to see, is this really natural? Well, they get off it and they say, well, it's not that natural. So we did some mistakes in our initial messaging that are still haunting us today. Whereas now we're saying, look, it's not that natural like natural walking, but hey, you're running and you're walking inside VR, and it's a blast. It's freaking fun. You're in a first-person shooter running and gunning or shooting zombies, and man, it's incredible. And it's not about natural, forget about it. It doesn't matter,
It's just fun. And that was the thing that got me, I think that the first times I did it, I did the treadmills, and the games weren't really very good. That was the other part of it. It's like, it was like a lot of VR. It was just a tech demo, and the tech wasn't amazing, and the experience wasn't really natural. And the combination of not a fun game and a weird environment, I just didn't get into it. And when I did it in Austin, we had that zombie game that we did, and it was, I was dual wielding weapons, running around shooting zombies in the head. And when I did the Omniverse, which is what's the competitive arena game you're shooting robots?
Yeah, core defense. Yeah, core defense.
Yeah, that one was that was really fun too. And so the ability to kind of run around and dual wield to me was super fun. And I didn't want to come out, which was one of the mistakes I made, by the way. So, I found that it was so much fun that I stayed in beyond that threshold where I started feeling a little bit, and I'm really super sensitive to simulator sickness. Like, I can't do motion simulators at theme parks. I used to be able to do roller coasters. Even roller coasters make me a bit uncomfortable now. And so that's the thing that I found. It was so much fun, I didn't want to come out of it. And one of the things I think you're doing with the new system is limiting that game to about 7 minutes or so. So talk about how you're managing that for people, and how you're compressing that time frame, which I think is driving some of your replayability. We can talk about that too.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, I think your video is out. Bob. I don't see it. Yeah. But our games are 5 to 7 minutes. We find it to be the sweet spot. The game you played was the long version. It goes on and on and on, and you had so much fun. You played for 20 minutes, and that's just too much. That's just a bit much. But also, all our games are highly optimized. In fact, that zombie game you played, we made some tweaks to that, again, just to remove any possible source of motion sickness. It has to do with a lot of factors: the contrast, the hills, going up and down on hills or going into water. All of that needs to be removed to make it as comfortable as possible. And so we're seeing now that, with our attraction, there's almost no motion sickness. It's the same as, there's still a percentage of people that will get motion sick in VR. I think it's 5% or so of people. It's just a bit too jarring for them, whether it's on the Omni or just standing still in place. But yeah, all our games are, it's our number one priority is to make sure there is zero motion sickness in our experiences.
Cool. So, all right. So let's get into the arena itself. What inspired you to build this thing? And maybe it's worthwhile, in case you guys weren't on last week, is to show just a quick video. I think this will just kind of encapsulate what we're talking about, because I think this product is it's so beautiful and so well thought out in the detail and the design of it. I think it's worth just showing this quick video. Hold on one second. And here we go.
Really cool. This was totally different for me.
I had lots of fun.
It was great. Fantastic.
I've played VR, but not like that. It was just like another world.
Great experience. It's a very new way to get immersed in the VR. You get to run around and shoot stuff. People love that.
Whole package, when you come in, sit down, the professional look of everything just makes you really feel like you're immersing into the game.
Felt real. I felt like I was in the game. I was killing zombies, I had a good time, upgraded my guns, I was reloading. I loved everything about it.
You sit down, the tablet in front of you, coaching your whole way through it to the end, to be able to capture their information, to be able to send another coupon.
We have at least 4 malls around Peru we could be able to take it to. We've never seen something as complete as this, so it would be like a market breaker.
It's compact, it's small, it doesn't take up a large amount of space.
They're coming at you.
This guy cracks me up.
Directions. Boom, 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 boom. And then you got your teammates. I like the idea that you could call to your teammates for help. I felt
I'm not sure I want to be in the same room with him while he's throwing axes.
When you're actually running towards the zombies and in the game, like, it was pretty awesome. I can't wait to try the other games. You know, let's keep it going. I'll stay here all day.
So this was a thing that I think when I first saw it, I was like, all right, this is how you do it, is this idea of a complete experience. And somebody in the video mentioned that. I know you captured that. And so talk about that a little bit, because that's something that not enough people are doing. They're thinking about the VR, but they're not talking about the end-to-end consumer experience.
Yeah, and what really prompted us creating the VR Arena, this is really the result of the last few years of customer feedback we received. We have been in the FEC market with the Omni, and we did that together with Eunice back at the time. We had a stage with 5 Omnis on a stage, and that was our first product for the FEC market. But we learned a lot from that. That had a lot of issues regarding, or challenges, I shall say, regarding throughput, regarding labor required to get people in and out. It was just a lot of hassle. So we made a lot of improvements to the Omni itself, Omni 2.0, as I mentioned, with the overshoes, the easier harness, the better belt, the better base. Yeah. But on top of that, we realized that, to make this a good experience, both for the players as well as for the operator, we have to make this a turnkey solution with a nicely streamlined flow for the player. So it has a staging area where people get ready. So one group is still playing, the next group is getting ready in the staging area. They get ready, there's some social interactions, everything is touchscreen, everything is highly automated. They're already having fun, it's part of the experience. Then they play on the Omnis. And again, everything is automated. There's videos to show them what to do. The operator has instructions all on touchscreen. Very quick player turnaround time, quick setup time. They play 5 to 7 minutes. They come back out. Then they get a video of their gameplay, picture inside picture, some action shots as well, and an email with a link to a web page where they can share that video on social media with the venue's logo built in. So it's a complete experience for the guest, which has a lot of benefits. It's a great value for the guest. It's not just a quick 5-minute game, but it's a fun 15 to 20-minute experience. But it's also a controlled experience. It has it's all it's synchronous, and it's optimized for a quick player setup and steady throughput for the operator as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that one of the things that I've been talking about a lot is this concept of don't sell VR by the minute. It's an experience, and if you sell it as an experience, you can charge more for it. People are willing to pay more. It's been proven by operators that are doing it right. And so what you're doing is you're taking a 5 to 7 minute VR game, turning it into a 20-minute experience. And therefore, we've talked about pricing a bit, and you went into pinballs, which is your first location. And let's talk about your pricing model and how you're pricing it and what's the feedback been.
Yeah. Well, ultimately the pricing is up to the operator, but pinballs charges $15 per play. $15.
Yep.
Which is
and how long's the actual game?
The game is, like you said, it's about 5 to 7 minutes in VR, but the whole customer experience, the complete experience, is about 15 to 20 minutes. And people pay it, and they find it's worth it because they have a great time. But then, especially at the end, when they get that video, they see that video of themselves, and they got an email. It's like, wow, it's just one other thing they get. And they feel like, wow, that's just great value. We have lots of repeat play, people playing it again a second or a third time, and paying $15 every time.
Yeah, and that to me is the thing. If you're building a VR, if you're operating VR, is stop selling by the minute, and if you're an operator, especially, curate an end-to-end customer experience. And this is one of the things that I really feel like I learned in the laser tag business in the 90s is we did, theatrical pre-show videos. And then at the end, you get your scorecard. Like the best part of laser tag is the scorecard. And kids would grab that sheet, that physical thing, and they would stand there with their friends for 10 or 15 minutes, and they'd compare statistics, and I shot you in the head 7 times, and da-da-da-da-da. And that's actually part of the experience. And so, while you're thinking about pricing, you got to think about the whole journey of the customer. And so now the modern version of the scorecard is the social media video, and people want to share things online, and that's what they want to do, and it's really important to do that. If you're not doing some kind of a shareable social media video, you're doing yourself, your customers, your operators a disservice. So
and it's not just the social media. I think another part of it is the leaderboards and the contests and esports. If we look at and I agree with you, and if we look at other anchor attractions at an FEC, whether it's bowling or laser tag or go-karting, they all have 3 characteristics. They're all active. There's a physical component involved. They're all multiplayer. There's a social component involved. And they're all competitive, either a leaderboard or just player versus player. And so active, multiplayer, competitive. I think those 3 are required for an anchor attraction. That's what we're trying to do with VR Arena as well. It's not about VR. VR is a medium, and people need to understand this. People don't care about VR. Look at the home market for VR. The consumer doesn't really care. Who cares? VR for us is a display technology. It's a medium. It should never be the end goal. So VR for us is a way, together with the Omni, to walk around inside a video game. If you want to be inside a first-person shooter, running and gunning with your friends, that's freaking incredible, right? Well, you need VR to do that, and you need an Omni. And that's what we offer. And with that, we offer the competitions and esports. And it's just this incredible experience that, for the first time, I think can attract gamers back to the FEC.
All right. So let's get into some of the numbers, right? So, I've asked you and I've asked On to give us some visuals that'll back up some of the data that we're going to be talking about. And so let's talk about esports, because it's a big buzz. It's blowing up all around the world. Predictions say it's going to be $1 billion business next year, by 2020. There's all this, like Google just announced this new, streaming platform, around video games. So gaming is just exploding everywhere, and esports is kind of another level of monetization of that. You've been doing these competitive tournaments now for a long time. Like how long have you been doing them, and what have you learned along the way?
Yeah, we started doing esports already back in 2016. Back then, there were kind of one-off events. We did one event in China that had 11 million viewers. That sounds like a lot, but it is a lot. But what we started doing more consistently since late last year was monthly contests every month. And now with VR Arena, also weekly contests. And it's taking off. It's getting a lot of traction. And we put some prize money behind that. This year alone, we have a $50,000 prize pool, sponsored by HP and HTC. And so we organize these monthly tournaments, and it's a great success. Players come, they come again. Operators love it because they're making a lot of money. So it seems to work well.
So how important is that consistency? How like because you said every month, and I know Steve Grubbs, who's going to be joining us on the panel at Amusement Expo, we talk about esports, he's doing like weekly tournaments. How important is, if an operator is going to do this, that they're consistent?
I think it's important. For us, it's every last weekend of the month. So actually, this month's tournament starts tomorrow, Thursday, and it lasts until Sunday. And the beauty of our esports contests is that the operator doesn't have to do a thing. Actually, we do everything for them. Ideally, they make promotion around it and they let their customers know, and they attract players. But other than that, players just show up, they play the contest game with their player accounts, and whoever is in the top 10 of the leaderboard by Sunday night wins a prize. And then we take care of everything. We send the prizes, we sponsor the prize.
But if they don't have your, like, not many people are going to have your arena this year, right? Just because it's new and it's just getting on the market. So if you're going to give advice to somebody about how to run a tournament on anything that they have, whether it's freaking, an adrenaline, Angry Birds video game, or laser tag, or or Hologate, or anything at all, like, what are the keys? What are some of the keys to doing this at an operator level?
I think the bottom line is you have to build it up from the grounds up. One mistake or one wrong approach we took a few years ago was, let's organize these big events, puts 4 Omnis on stage, and it's a great show. It's a great spectacle, lots of press, wow, amazing. But there's no substance behind it because there's no players behind it. So if you want to start building an esports game, or as an operator, esports activities, it's a lot of work, but you have to build it up from the grounds up and do it at regular intervals, like once a month, and grow your player base steadily month over month over month. And that's what we're doing. Then after some months, you'll have a steady player base. You'll have a community of players who come every month or even come every week to practice. Some of these locations in our contests, they always have the same players participating, and these players come practice every week. So we build a community of frequent players around it, and that's
and when they show up, do they know each other? Like, do they plan to come together? Like, what's that social piece like? I haven't seen it myself in this context.
Yeah, they show up with friends and family. Some of these players, for example, we have these 2 teenagers that play at this VR arcade in New Jersey. They go on radio shows. Local newspapers start to cover them. So it's starting to get some traction, and they bring friends and family, and a lot of these players, they want to be in esports. These gamers, they love esports, but it's very hard to be in esports. You can't just become a League of Legends professional esports player, or you can't become a Call of Duty esports. It's not possible. But with us, it starts from the ground up. Here's your chance to be an esports player, win money, and we try to make them stars. We try to make them celebrities.
Dude, you're shattering the dreams of millions of kids right now by saying they can't become an esports player. Don't listen to them, kid. You can do it. Follow your dreams.
You can do it. It's really hard.
Tell your mom it's okay to play Call of Duty 8 hours a day. You're training for the future. So one of the statistics that you sent out in one of your emails, by the way, if you're not following the Virtuix blog, go to their website and sign up for it. The data that's coming out in that newsletter on a what is it, bi-weekly basis or whatever is really good, and it's informative and it's educational. And so one of the things you released in one of those was, and you call it here 7 times on average repeat play, but what does that mean? What's the data behind that? Because I found it really interesting.
Yeah, we track how many times each team plays in the contest. So on average, we see now that a top 20 team on average plays the game 7 times. A top 10 team plays 12 times on average. I mean, last month was a single player tournament. One guy played 58 times. I mean, that's like a lot. But the bottom line is it stimulates people. If people can win money and they have a shot at the leaderboard, they have a shot at winning money, they're going to play more than once. They're going to spend some money and play more.
And the reason for that is, and it's important to understand, is this is an asynchronous tournament, right? And so it's a leaderboard tournament, right? So you just got to work your way up and hold your place on the leaderboard. And so, it's not like it's a single elimination, double elimination. You go with your team and you just keep playing and move up the leaderboard. And you can do this with any game. You could do it with freaking Pong, right? You could do it with anything. Is give people a reason to be on the leaderboard and play. And like when I was a kid, I went to a neighborhood arcade in Hollywood, Florida. And, and this was back in the 70s, right? When there were neighborhood arcades, and we would fight up to stay on a leaderboard, and we grabbed the top 10 slot, man. And we wanted to hold that top 10 slot. And if somebody bumped us off, somebody would call us and let us know, and we'd go back and we'd start slugging quarters in and move ourselves back up. And I think that's where that repeat play thing comes in. And if you've got an asynchronous tournament, which is a week long, how long are your tournaments run?
We have the monthly tournament, which is the big tournament. That's 4 days per month from Thursday through Sunday. Yep. And then for our VR arcade operators, right now just pinballs, there's an ongoing weekly tournament. So it starts on Monday and the leaderboard ends on Sunday night every week. So basically, anytime someone plays, he can be part of a contest leaderboard and potentially win money.
All right, so there's a bunch of questions queuing up, which I want to get to, and then we're going to come back to the slide. So first of all, you got Ariel wants to buy one of these for Europe. So he wants to know, is this going to be available in Europe?
Yeah, not yet. We came back from IAPA with a big order backlog for the US. We're going to really focus on the US first, unfortunately, probably for the rest of this year, and start international sales hopefully sometime early next year.
All right, cool. Sorry, Ariel. But I'm sure somebody will reach out to you and give you some more details. And then there's been a bunch of questions about the pinball, and we're going to get to the pinball numbers later. But I just want to say, and this is something coming into it. It is spring break. It was South by Southwest. Pinballs is way outside of downtown Austin where the action is. Yeah. How much did South by affect your traffic up there, would you say?
South by, I don't think any, because pinballs is probably 35 minutes away from downtown Austin, and with South by traffic, it's probably more than that. It is spring break. I mean, this month is a very good month for FECs. So certainly this month, I think we'll do really good numbers. April is traditionally one of the slowest months, so that'll be a little bit less. So spring break plays a role. It's beautiful weather here though, so it's not that busy spring break, but definitely that plays a role.
Yeah. So, and we're getting to the pinball stuff here in a second. So, so as far as the esports goes, what are some of the other takeaways? So we know it drives repeat play because people want to be in that leaderboard. What's the type of, you talk about a new audience of gamers, like who's actually playing this? Because a lot of times the FECs have been about families and casual play, and this is a different audience and a different mindset of player, I think, that you're attracting with this.
That's right, and that's really the bottom line, is that I think esports provides an opportunity for FECs to attract a new audience of gamers that, frankly, that demographic hasn't been to an FEC since the 90s. In the 90s, they came play at the arcades and all these cool games. Now gamers play at home. They play Fortnite. They play PUBG. They play Call of Duty online. Everything is online. Everything is community-based, and it's awesome. And the games at an FEC are, quite frankly, archaic compared to what you can do at home. Even the new Halo game, a Halo Fireteam Raven, beautiful arcade cabinet, probably a big success at FECs. But frankly, for any gamer, well, I don't know, but for any gamer, that kind of on-rails experience is pretty lame. I mean, there's not a single game who's going to come to an FEC to play something like that. But what we're doing with esports, that's, I think, a game changer, because now we're telling people, look, you can, and it's not just us, VR in general, but then coupled with the Omni, you can walk and run around inside a video game. Wow, that has always mesmerized people. Ever since our Kickstarter campaign, the ability to be able to walk and run around inside a Call of Duty style game. Wow, you know, and then I can win prizes, and I can be an esports player, and I can form an esports team and compete. Wow, I want to go do that. So I think this is an opportunity to attract that audience of gamers that traditionally hasn't really been that much to FECs.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You talked about the you can we'll send out a replay, and it'll be on my YouTube channel by the weekend. So I'll send out a message to everybody, and I'll put on my YouTube channel so you guys can subscribe to this if you're struggling. There it is. You can that's my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel and get notifications of all the updates there. So so Fireteam Raven, let's talk about Halo, and because I think this gaming segment is really an important thing to talk about, and there hasn't been enough talk, at least on this show, about it. Is so Raw Thrills, Eugene Jarvis, freaking guy, he was the game designer for Defender, right? So talk about a legend in the industry. This goes back to when I was a kid, and they did this Halo game called Fireteam Raven. It's an arcade game. It is a beautiful cabinet. It's one of the most beautiful cabinets I've ever seen in the arcade business, and it's getting mixed. It's getting mixed results. And I think the reason for that, from talking to FEC owners, is that, first of all, Halo doesn't have much of a brand outside of the hardcore, not the hardcore, but the console gaming market, which isn't coming to FECs, right? So the casual FEC customer, it doesn't really recognize Halo as a powerful brand. The people it is attracting are the gamers who play Halo, and they're like, oh yeah, okay. And what they want to do is they want to play it. So they play it once all the way through to check the box and say, okay, I played the Halo game, and then they're done, and it's not getting the repeat play. So it's not doing anywhere near as well as, like, same games from Raw Thrills as Walking Dead or Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there's something, so I think it talks about the mindset of the gamer and how to, capture and retain the gamer in the amusement industry is a challenge. And I think it's going to be these competitive platforms like what you guys are doing and what Creative Works is bringing out, this new esports console, which they've started shipping, powered by GG Connect, which is, if you're not familiar with GG Leap, great esports platform for console gaming, or PC gaming. You guys should check that out. So, all right, so let's talk about, so you guys have had recently, you said you had your 1 millionth play. And so talk about, what have you learned? And I know you sent out a blog post with the insights of the, having had 1 million people play on that, not on the VR arena, but in the Omni. What have been the key learnings there?
Yeah, first is, and this is an interesting topic, is we have 20 games right now. Omniverse, which is our broader overall content platform for the Omni, for commercial location-based entertainment, has 20 games. But the reality is, do you need 20 games? And the answer is not really. If you go to the next slide, I show the content distribution. And this is no surprise, although it's a bit surprising how the cliche just again becomes reality, is that these are our top 20 games, the revenues that generate in a month, or just all our 20 games, I shall say. And lo and behold, the 4 top games, which is exactly 20% of the game catalog, generates exactly 80% of revenues. The 80-20 rule applies. The last 10 games, the bottom 10 games, only generate 6% of revenues.
Yeah. And so if you haven't read Chris Anderson's book called The Long Tail, it's really worth reading, because it talks about this in this age of unlimited content on the internet, that there's this long tail of stuff that altogether actually is meaningful in some places, but not everywhere. Unlimited content doesn't make sense everywhere. And here's a great example of, in the FEC business, it doesn't. Make a great game or 2 or 3, and that's what people are going to want to play.
That's right. And even repeat players. For example, now at pinballs, we see a lot of repeat play, people playing a second and a third time, and they play the same game again. It's not that they play again and try another game. No, I want to do the same thing again because I really like that. So even repeat play, oftentimes they just go back to that one game they liked. So yeah.
So I'm going to address this. What's happening is because a lot of VR games aren't really good, just going to call it out. And they play off as tech demos. They're not great games. They're not games that you're going to be driven to play again and again and again. That what operators are doing is they're saying, okay, people will come back to play a different game because the first game wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can get developers to start building amazing games in VR, one game's plenty. It really is. And we're going to start to see that.
Yeah, I don't think one game is plenty.
Not forever. Not for $150,000 investment forever. I totally agree with that.
Well, our philosophy is just cover the most popular game genres.
So let's talk about genres because that was a question.
Yeah. The most popular genre is first-person shooters. People want to shoot things, and we offer them two options right now. One is shoot zombies, very popular, or two, shoot robots. A sci-fi shooter, also popular, and then of course also PvP, player versus player, very popular as well.
So what of these three, the top three, what number 1, 2, and 3, what games are those? Because that's a question that's come up.
Yeah, they're all shooters. I think the first game is probably the zombie shooter. The second game is a robot shooter. And the third game, I believe, is a PvP shooter, military style shooter. So
interesting that the PvP isn't, I would have expected it to be higher up. What do you think is the driver behind that?
Yeah, we actively tell people, if you haven't played before, play the cooperative shooter. Don't play the PvP. Because PvP for a novice gamer is quite hard. And all our games, we try to make them easy to play for everybody, but hard to master. So easy to play, hard to master. I love that saying, and it's so true for games in the location-based entertainment space. But a PvP, a player versus player shooter, it's inherently a little bit harder. It's hard to communicate to players what they need to do. If they're not a gamer, they get shot, they die. So we tell them, if you never played before, play the cooperative game, play together, talk together, and shoot zombies together. You're going to have a great time.
One of the challenges in PvP is leveling the game. And this is why I don't think there have been any really great PvP games yet. I would say Tower Tag is probably the exception to that. But that might be very personal to me because I'm an advanced player and I loved it. But for a novice, it might not be. Is that leveling of a game where you can get an expert and a novice in the game together and they both have fun. And we had trouble with that in laser tag in the early 90s, and we designed our arena specifically to make sure that people had never played before had places to hide. We created a divided arena so the other team couldn't get onto your side. So if you were a novice player, you could actually hide and snipe people and still have fun. And it was and we specifically designed it for that. And there's not enough of that happening in PvP. It's really a challenge. So, so we'll see as that develops. So the other thing you talk about here is social staff. And that's something that I've but I'm learning social staff versus tech savvy staff. What does that mean?
Yeah, we've seen some operators make this mistake, if we can call it that way. They get a VR attraction and they're like, oh, Jimmy over here, he's a gamer, he's tech savvy, he knows this VR, he can operate this VR attraction. So they put their tech savvy staff on it, and it's not great because VR is really a personal experience. You get very close with the customer. You have to put on the headset on their face, you have to adjust the knob on their face, then you give them the controllers. You get into people's personal space with VR. Plus, people are a little bit self-conscious with VR. They don't know what to do. I mean, you need an attendant who can be good with people. You need a people person. Really good social skills, really good customer service skills.
Yeah. So one of the guys that I follow, Scott Greenberg, who's running, he was a GM at Adrenaline in Atlanta, and he was one of the first trampoline parks to put in VR cubes. And he said that what his success came from taking party hosts, and he took his best party hosts and made them the VR hosts, and he had great success with that. And so I think having outgoing, the other thing is you got to kind of have to sell people on it. Like, they don't know what it is, they haven't done it before, it's a little bit expensive. And so you have to have some sales skills in there too. So I think that's another key learning for people.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, all right, so let's talk about, so by the way, people are asking, I threw out a $150,000 number, by the way, which is not a price quote. So I want to make sure you get an opportunity to correct anything that I threw out that was inaccurate. Fam's asking about the price of the VR arena.
Yeah.
What is it?
Right now, it's $121,000 plus installation. I will say though, given the early results we're seeing at Pinballs, for example, to begin with, which is on track to do, $20,000 to $30,000 this month. But if
you've underpriced it a little bit.
Underprice it. I mean, look, we're going to increase the price. I think the price will go up because it's such a tremendous value. It's a beautiful looking attraction. It's generating a lot of money. It's also generating a lot of things beyond the player experience. It's generating 1,000 to 2,000 email addresses for the operator that they can use for marketing. Yeah, it's drawing.
So that was a question.
Yeah.
That was a question. Let's get into some of the learnings from Pinball. So, I think I'm looking to see who asked that question about the social sharing and statistics around that. So, first of all, you've been open for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
What did you do to launch? So I'm a big launch guy. Right? That's one of my things. What did you guys do from a marketing standpoint to generate some buzz and interest around this? And what can other operators do with any VR attraction, really, right, to be able to launch an attraction within their venue?
Yeah, well, we didn't do that much beforehand because we weren't really sure when it was going to be ready. Is it going to be working fine? Are there going to be any technical issues? It was really the world's first. So, but in short notice, we put together a launch event. And we promoted that on social media, mainly Facebook and Instagram, which are I think the most effective channels. And we put on some ads for the VR arena. We have about a 30-second video, maybe it's 45-second video that catches a lot of eyeballs. Again, people on Omnis running inside VR, running inside a game, very effective. And told people, hey, come to our launch events. And it had great success, actually. So we spent about $120 on these Facebook ads for
$120 whole dollars.
$120 for 4 days, and then we kept track of who came to the event based on that. And we had about 170 people come to the event. 42 said they came because of the Facebook ads. So $120 resulted in 42 customers, so $3 per customer. And on top of that, here's the most important stat. I think 45% of people that came to the launch event had never been to Pinballs before, had never been to this FEC. So they came specifically to try out VR Arena. They loved the idea of walking, running in VR. And they came to the FEC. And they're mainly gamers and those kind of that demographic. But 45% of people had never been to this location before. And that's, I think, really powerful.
And this is something I've been saying about VR for a long time, is it has the opportunity to bring a new customer in. And one of the things operators do is they buy a new game, like a Big Bass Wheel redemption game or something, not to harp on Big Bass Wheel, but I call it out because it's probably one of the top earning games in the industry. And they get their money back in X number of weeks or whatever, and then they feel good about their investment. But in reality, what they've done is they've just shifted money from another game. But is bringing a whole new customer with new money. And so the ROI really needs to be calculated differently. And I think operators need to get into that mindset. There's a bunch of conversation I want to clear up here on the chat around pricing and timing and stuff. And so we already covered this, but it's about a 5 to 7 minute game in VR. But what these guys have done, which I love, by the way, is they've curated a 20-minute experience, a 15 to 20 minute total consumer experience with a pre-show and a post-game experience. And so the reason they've been able to get that $15 price point, which is not a bundled price, that's the price of just your attraction, is $15, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's $15 per play. And the math, people get confused about the math. It's a bit confusing, but the math, it's 15 to 20 minutes per group of players, but they overlap because one group gets ready in the staging area, another group is already playing. They come out, they have the social sharing element, the next group already starts playing. So the throughput is the turnover on the Omnis themselves, which really is what matters. Right. It's about 12-minute turns, so you can do 5 groups an hour, so 20 players per hour, even though the experience is about 15 minutes.
you've got 12 people in the arena at one time. That's the way to think about it. So you got 4 people doing the pregame, getting their overshoes on, talking about what game they want to play, because they have to select the play, and there's a little mini game that they can play. Then while that's happening, there's 4 people in the Omnis, and then while that's happening, there's 4 people doing their social sharing and getting their videos. So you got 12 people at once in this really compact space, and that's really the thing that I think they've done really well.
That's right. Yeah.
Hopefully that answers some questions. And if not, just keep them coming. We'll circle back to the questions, because I think that this is the thing that I want people to learn, whether you're an operator or whether you're designing your new solution, is think about that whole customer experience and what is it? What's the whole journey? And how do you get everybody active so you don't price just the per minute of VR, which is commoditization pricing strategy. And anybody with experience in pricing will tell you, don't price based on time. It's a fucking race to zero. All right. So what else have you done around the what have you seen? Like, so email. So we talk about emails, right? So you're getting 70% of the people that have played so far have actually created a user account, which requires an email. Talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing we're doing with the attraction, it's an esports attraction. So if you want to participate in contests, you need to make a player account. And so players enter the attraction, and there's a whole automated staging area where they get ready, and everything is touchscreen, and they start, making their player name and all that. Well, 70% of people just go ahead and make a player account, even though they can skip it, but they go ahead and do it, because then they get a video at the end, they can participate in the contest. And so what that means is that if we have, let's say, 2,000 players per month, which is what we'll do at Pinballs this month, about 1,400 of those people will have made a player account. And that's really valuable, because we can basically hand Pinballs a list of 1,400 emails that they can use for marketing. And then you can market a contest to them, you can market, birthday, whatever you want to do. But I think that's a very valuable side effect of our attraction being, I call it an attraction for the 21st century. It's cloud-based, you have player accounts, it's, leaderboards that are connected online. But the side benefit of that is these player accounts. And it's from a marketing perspective, it's very valuable.
Yeah. So, so Megan's asking about hygiene. So how are you guys handling cleaning in a high volume attraction like this?
Yeah, we do it like most VR attractions do it. It's basically
spray bleach on everybody's face at the end and wipe their face clean, or no? Sorry.
No, part of the operating procedure is to wipe every headset with wet wipes in between players, and then we use face covers. And then we're trying to see how often we want to replace those. Maybe every week or so, you want to replace a complete face cover, to be determined. But hygiene is very important, and it's part of the operating procedure.
And you're running is it HTC Vive? Is it Vive Pro? What's the hardware stack behind this thing?
Yeah, we use
for those of you that care.
Vive Pros. Yeah.
Okay. What's your thoughts on some of the new stuff that came out of GDC this year, this week, the new headsets? Any thinking around that?
It's interesting. Our thesis has always been that the headset becomes a commodity over time, and that was frowned upon initially. It's starting to come true. Now HP has now an interesting headset. Oculus is coming out, maybe wants to go into the commercial space as well. We use Vive. For us, it's quite hard to suddenly change, of course. It's hard to do, but there are now options. PMAX, Pimax, I heard good things about. So we're coming to a world where there are options for the headset, and I think ultimately the headset may be more of a commodity, and it's around what you do in addition to that, and especially for location-based venues, we have a lot of people that come play VR Arena that have a headset at home. They have the Vive or have an Oculus, but they can't play VR Arena because the Omni and walking around in VR is something you can't do at home. So I think it's important for entertainment venues, if you're thinking about a VR attraction, if it's just headset based, well, a lot of people can do that at home already. So it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So Fam's asking about Throughput, and this is something that I know you did some video. You worked, you actually you actually ran this attraction at Pinball. I've challenged you on this one, right? I said, go ahead and run the damn thing yourself and videotape it. And we don't have the video in this, but talk about your experience as the operator inside this attraction at Pinballs last week.
Yeah.
How many people were you able to put through it? How much help did you need? How exhausted were you at the end? What was your experience?
Yeah, I operated it by myself for an hour or two. And
was it an hour or two? Come on, let's go. No bullshit. What was it? 1 or 2 hours?
2 hours. Yeah, the 2 hour shift.
Okay.
Yeah, because we do shifts right now just to help out, and I was there. But it wasn't the most busy time. So I don't know how many players I did. It wasn't like 4 groups after 4 after 4 after 4. But it went well. I mean, look, the idea of the VR Arena was to solve some of the biggest issues we saw with the prior attraction that we had, which was around throughput and labor issues and so forth. So it's built and designed to be manageable by one attendant. It's highly automated. Look, if it gets really busy, if it gets really intense on a Saturday evening, I mean, add a second attendant if you need to. I think that's fine. If this thing makes $25,000 to $30,000 in a month, you can afford to add a second attendant. I think Hologate is the same. You can add it. You can easily do it with one attendant. I think most places add a second attendant if it gets busy, just to aid customers and so forth. Ultimately, we were so focused on throughput with this attraction and so focused on getting 20 plays per hour through at one attendant. What we've noticed now in the last 2 weeks, this thing has been operating. It made $10,000 in 10 days. But throughput is just not an issue. I think throughput for VR is not that big an issue, in a sense that, this thing is doing well, is having constant player flow, but very rarely is there 100 people waiting outside trying to get through this as fast as possible. Because one other thing we did was we have a queuing app. So people don't have to wait in line. People fill in their information. They get a text message when it's their time to play, 5 minutes before. They come back, they play. So when it's really busy, sometimes we have 6, 7 parties in the queue. And maybe the queue is 45 minutes or an hour. They get a text, they come, they play. But very rarely is there an issue where, oh my God, I wish we get people through this faster. I think the biggest problem of VR or any VR attraction is not throughput. I think it's utilization. I think do people actually want to play your attraction? How many people really want to play it? Do you have enough people playing it in a week or in a month? I think that's the number one problem VR attractions need to solve, is getting people to play the freaking thing. Not, oh my God, I could put 30 people through in the next hour.
Yeah, I think the reason for that, the reason that people key on throughput is because traditionally, again, it's the 80-20 rule, is that they do all their business in such a compact time period, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so operators are always focused on, how do I take advantage of the fact that I spend all this money to get all of these people here in a really compact period of time, and I want to get as many of them through as possible. And so I think that the part that people are struggling with your attraction is they're focused on how many people are playing. And this is the fucking mindset thing that drives me crazy, is you guys are focused on how many people are playing in the 4 pods, the 4 Omnis, not focusing on the fact that there's 12 people in there at once. So when you're comparing it to something like a Hologate or a Chaos Jump or something, where you have 4 people playing at a time, and then those 4 people leave, and then there's nobody in it, and then you have 4 more people coming into it, right? And then they're having to get suited up. You have 5 minutes in between games. And I think what Jan is saying is, 7 games, 4 turns an hour. So 7 minutes, right, times 4, and that's only 4 turns an hour. So you're saying you basically got 7 minutes of transition time between each game. But the key is you've built value around waiting and value around afterwards, which allows you to charge $15 a game. So when you're comparing it to a 4-player trust-based tethered system, you're charging twice the price per game generally, because I think most people are in that $8 to $10 range for, and again, this is one location. I also want to qualify that. There's a first location, it's been open a few weeks, so I get it, but you're charging 50 to 75% or even twice per play, because it's a 20-minute experience, not a 7-minute experience. and you're engaging them for that whole time. And so I think that apples to apples, when you look at the economics of this versus a 4-player trust-based system, I think the economics of this are a lot better, which is why I've told Jan he's underpriced the product. Because I actually think that it's going to consistently generate more money.
Yeah. And let me clarify.
And so,
because I see a comment clarified about the by the way, Bob, your video went away again, just to let you know. But I want to clarify about the throughput. I mean, don't get me wrong, throughput is important because indeed it gets very busy on a Saturday. It does get very busy on a Friday night. So you do want to get people through as fast as possible. I absolutely agree with that. And so we went, 20 players per hour is easy with the VR Arena. It's 7 minutes in the game, 5-minute turns. So one group every 12 minutes, five groups per hour times 4 is 20 players per hour. But I think what we did well in this regard is this queuing app. Because throughput becomes an issue if you have 20 people show up at the same time. What's the wait? Oh, I don't want to wait in line for half an hour. They go away, and then you lost that customer, and then not enough people get through. I think what's been valuable for us is this queuing app where people just put their name in the queue, they pay, they're in the queue, they come back 45 minutes later or 30 minutes later, and they play. So with this queuing app, you can get this queue filled up, and this attraction just keep running for hours and hours on end at 100% utilization. And
people can spend money in other parts of and they can spend money in other parts of your attraction while they're waiting. And that's something that's, I think, really, really, and that's something you haven't talked about much, really. I'm surprised that that's been an underappreciated. When you said that on this webinar, it was the first time I've heard you talk about that in a while. So,
I'll say it differently. Like this attraction is $10,000 in 10 days. If the throughput is 30 players per hour, let's say, would we have more revenues in these 10 days? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it would have made much difference on the revenues it made in 10 days.
Yeah, really good point. And Bill's asking about. Yeah, and Bill was asking about IP, and I love the questions, guys. I love your no bullshit questions. This is awesome. Yes, it is spring break, and I'm going to hold you. I'm going to make sure that they continue to release numbers as we get out of spring break, and they're going to be really transparent around this, around what this thing does. And so, because you shouldn't keep secrets.
No, because I will say our internal goal was to hit $15,000 in a month, which we thought would be really good. And now it seems like this month, because it's spring break, we'll do probably $25,000 this month. That's terrific. But if it was $15,000, I'd be equally happy. And so we'll certainly continue to report numbers month over month. And we're going to keep installing systems in the US, all over the US in the next few months. So we'll keep everybody updated on numbers.
Yeah. So last thing, Bill was asking about Bill was asking about IP that can't be gotten at home, and I think, Bill, you're missing the point of this whole attraction. You're never going to be able to do this at home. I mean, though Omni was originally started as a consumer product, they realized they needed to pivot to a commercial product, and I just don't see people installing stuff like this in their homes in any time in the near future. I mean, there's no VR at home as it is. Thinking that people.
We don't sell at home. You can't get the Omni for your home. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So, but I think even if you could, like, people aren't going to do it. Like, they're not even buying VR. And with Quest and $399 price points and stuff happening this year, you might see it trickle into the home a little bit more. But I still don't think you're going to see VR as a consumer product for the next couple of years.
We did see quite a few customers that claimed that they had VR at home in the last few weeks at Pinball. So, I mean, look, there's a part of the demographic that does have VR at home. I
think that's great.
I think you need to offer things at the FEC that they can't do at home. Any rooms, any free roam attraction, this kind of attraction, people will come because it's something they can't do at home. Even though it's VR, they may have an Oculus at home. It doesn't prevent them from doing something even more cool in VR at an FEC.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Logan's asking about you can still buy Omnis, right? For commercial location. I know a lot of VR arcades operate Omnis. And so if you can't, like, if you're in Europe and you can't get the virtual arena, you can still do Omnis and kind of create your own version of this, I guess, if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, that's right. We have 18 distributors in covering 45 countries. So if you go to our website, you'll see our distributor list. And if you want to buy just individual Omni systems, you can do that. if you're an FEC, especially in the US, you'll want a turnkey solution. That's
Yeah. So fam, to answer your question, it's a really good question, but the thing I tell operators, I'm working with a lot of operators now, helping them figure out what, create frameworks for figure out how to buy products and what to buy. It just depends on your location and what type of consumer you're trying to attract. If you're trying to attract a gamer and you're trying to build an esports platform right now, this is the product. If you want something for more casual families and you want 7-year-olds to play with their mom and dad, is this the best product? I don't know. I might say that, the Chaos Jump is only 12 by 12 feet and you can get 4 players in and it's a really family friendly game. That might be a better value, and why not fucking do both? Like, this is the thing I keep telling operators, depending on your facility, you wouldn't have one arcade game. You wouldn't have one redemption game. Why do you think you can only have one VR game? Why is it an either or? What you need to start doing is programming for the audience that you want to attract into your business. And the way you do that is you build multiple attractions that hit various demographics and psychographics and price points to get people to come in and play a lot of things. And 2-Bit Circus is a great example of that. And they've got like 10 or 12 different VR attractions. They're bringing new stuff in all the time, and people are playing. They're playing it, and then they're coming back to play different stuff, and they're playing it all. And so I don't think the question is which one do I buy. It's the question is, why aren't you doing more VR? That's my question.
Well said.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, I got to run because I got a plane to catch in a couple of hours. I'm flying to Vegas for Amusement Expo. If you're not going to be there, I'll be disappointed. There's the file on it. The speakers, Jan's going to be speaking. We got a great list of speakers. It's going to be 8 hours of intense programming on content. And we're not going to be videotaping it. So the only way to see it, I guess we were shut down. I'm still trying to change it, but the only way to see it is to be there. So jump on a plane, meet me in Vegas. Jan, I will see you there. Any last words?
Yeah, I want to say one final thing is that we'd love for people to come try and see VR Arena here in Austin. So just putting this out there, but if people want to come to Austin to come try it and see it, we're actually incentivizing that. We'll arrange for your hotel and we'll pay back your flights if you end up buying one. So that's a standing offer.
Awesome. So go to Austin. It's beautiful in the springtime. And don't wait till the summer because it's fucking brutally hot. But yeah, go see Jan in Austin. He was a great host when I went down there, and check out the Omni Arena. There's not going to be, you're going to have to go travel to see one. It's not going to be at Amusement Expo. I tried to get them to bring it, by the way, and Jan's like, we really want to focus on making sure that the first installations go well, and we're focusing on our customers and our operators. So
yeah,
so good on you.
Yeah. We have an Omni at Amusement Expo with our partner Funovation. I know we didn't get to talk about that much, but Funovation is our partner in the US. They're our distributor in the US and Canada, and they've been terrific partners. We love these guys. Yeah. And so we'll be at their booth at Amusement Expo with an Omni and a quarter mock-up of the VR Arena. Because we're focused on fulfilling our backlog. You can't do both as a company. Bringing stuff to a trade show and then doing the first few installs. I guess you can do it, but we decided to really focus on the installations and the numbers we want.
So I will see you guys next Friday from Las Vegas with a wrap up of Amusement Expo. I'll try to get as much in that as possible as far as what was the highlights of the speaking opportunities, the panels, the product releases, news releases. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening there. So hopefully I'll see you there. And if not, I'll see you next week on the deep dive. Thanks for joining, Jan.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.